Show my boot to get a little movement. He's starting to learn that there's safety right there. He kind of wants to hunt that spot. You'll notice my horse kind of knows the drill here. I can let go of him. He knows what to do. All right. Just let him go. I'll drive him over here to the hip. I'll bump that Colt off of me with my foot. Now I use my foot there for the same reason I use my foot when I ride. Why should I wait until I'm on to use my foot to get motion from his feet? I can build that in now and start to have some cues that I can use when I get on. Now the other thing you'll see me do a lot, you'll see my hand go up here. One of the reasons that tying horses overhead, like in a highline situation, is so valuable is it teaches us to grab their ass and move forward and try to walk off. That rope that runs you up above is always going to lift them, lift their pole, lift their neck, and it's always going to take them back to center. So we can kind of utilize that same thing, and what that also does is it gets us to where that horse starts to learn the signal to get to those feet. It comes from a lift on the rein. So already here, I can let him go forward, pump, let him move off forward here, and I'm just going to pick up, stop my horse, and wait for the hind feet. So already he's kind of getting the idea that I bump at the belly, follow my hand, and I'm always kind of pushing my horse to my hand. I don't want to drag him. I don't back up and try to drag him to me. It's always a push, and we're always advancing forward on the horse. We're always driving forward. Like here, I'll pick, lift, bump that shoulder, so don't crowd me. You got to understand there's one spot that I want you. And Brett and I talk about this a lot. We spend a lot of time telling horses where to be, but not enough time telling them where not to be. If you only tell your horse where to be, he's always going to want to be in the other places because he hasn't learned that he shouldn't be in those other places, right? So if you want straightness and you just sit there with your legs in his belly holding him, he'll be like every horse at the Hunter Jumper Show. It could be a $500,000 horse, but the rider has to keep their spurs in the belly and tight reins all the time because they're riding that horse straight only because they're making him go straight. And that horse thinks, well, if I screw off, maybe crooked is a better feeling for me. And they're always hunting that outside of the box. I want these horses starting right here to understand that if you stay where I ask you to, I'm going to back my pressure off. I'm going to lighten there. But when you get to the spot I don't want you, like if you wait too long to move, I'm going to build pressure there. But as soon as you get there, I'm going to lighten the pressure. And so now I like that this horse is starting to get to where he'll stay a little bit off me. Before he either wanted to run away or he wanted to huddle up to me for kind of safety. It's a better spot. Neutral is really important for these young horses. See, a lot of guys, they move their feet, but they never can just park that horse and let him find a neutral spot where he can kind of have his thoughts. And I look at it like when you shake up a snow globe, you've got to let the snow globe settle now and then. And when we shake up their emotions, we're putting that energy into everything. We're getting his emotions up, his thoughts, everything. He always needs a moment to kind of come back to earth. That's kind of important, I think. So I'm going to bump him around a little bit more here before we go to the other side. So eventually I want to get to where I can put a little pressure at his belly and start to drive him around me. I can pick up here. I can get the hind feet back to forward. So we're taking him, he's in balance here. I'm taking him out of balance by taking those feet away. Back to balance again. I don't want him to get the idea that we always just plant our front feet and drop the hindquarters out, because pretty soon all they want to do is be on their forehand. So he's got to understand that like a teeter-totter, we can rock the weight back and forth on that horse. Again, I'm always bumping up. I'm utilizing the same nerves that on a leverage bit your curb strap would utilize, as well as with a hackamore. Just like with a hackamore, we're bumping up on that jaw. Everybody says, oh, I want knots in the noseband of my halter. I hardly use the noseband. I use the jaw. So here, whenever I feel like he puts a little effort in, I don't have to beg for something. Get a little flick and chew, start blinking his eyes, starting to feel better about things. So I'll come over here, hit the other side, and then we'll flag him a little bit, and we'll see where we go next. Different side, different view of the world. Right, you want to add anything?
One of the things I wanted to point out was your horse. We were talking about with that last filly we did, she was pretty troubled, and we were talking about how he would almost hug her to try to help her. With this colt, he's being almost aggressive. You know, he's darn sure assertive. Kind of bumps him with his nose, kind of threatened to nip him a couple times there.
Get your feet moving. You can feel my energy.
Yeah, the bay horse knows the program and is saying, "Come on, kid, play along. This is what we need you to do." And that's one of the reasons using a horse for this, a help horse, works so well, is because they've got a way better idea what's going on than we do. The other thing I'll add to this is crossing those hind feet over, which is what Cliff's got him doing right there, right there, right there. That's a really important thing to me. Once it's time for me to get on him, that's what I'm going to be looking for, to see that he's unkinked and that he's comfortable in his own skin, and I can get on him.
For anybody that's handy and wants to try this sort of thing, I get dallied here, and I always leave, this is kind of my rib cord. I tuck a loop of my lead rope under my thigh, so I have my hands free to work. But if I need to here, I can grab that and come free of my horn. I've seen a lot of guys do this, and they're almost getting half hitches on there, and I sure don't want to be tied off that short to a colt. So I want to make sure that I've got my everything organized here in a way that if I need to get to it, I can get to it. I don't mince words when I pull my flag out. Kind of just go at him, and I'm just creating energy. He's moving. I'm gonna just let him do his thing here, because I'm not putting the pressure on him, I'm just creating pressure. Notice I'm not going at him with the flag, I'm just intermittent pressure here.
And that whole deal about creating pressure, not putting pressure on him, that's important, because that's how the real world's gonna work. He's gonna be in situations where there's a lot of pressure, and he needs to decide whether it's on him or not.
Now I'll start to add a little bit of direction with my flag to show him the difference between directional pressure and non-directional. And I'm going to show him that that flag's not going to eat him. I've seen people take days or even weeks to get a horse good with a flag. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes. I don't want him dead to the flag. I just want him to understand when my energy and my other aids support it, sometimes the flag means move, sometimes it means just stand there and do nothing. Kind of neat how that works. But it's just, you got to be clear on what you want, and you can't like change feel midstream where you're like, hey, this means nothing, whack. And you've got to change yourself first. So like, if I want him to move here, I'm not just going to swat him. I'm going to start to pick my horse up, move myself. Now I can put a little energy on that hind quarter. Say, better get out of there. Then I'll start to go here. Start to ask for a little bit of movement through his shoulders. I'm going to ride to that shoulder and get him to cross that inside foot. I won't let him sneak past me here. Won't let him sneak back here either. He's got to find the direction that I want him to go. And that's lateral. There. There's a little step. I'll drop him right there. When I pick him up again in a second, he'll be a lot more keen to move those feet over. Want to add anything while he chews on that?
Yeah, just the whole idea of it's pretty easy to talk these horses into going forward, going around, going away from us, whatever. This idea of this lateral movement, that horse needs to, and is, figuring out oh, there's some place you want me to be. There's something in particular you want me to do. What's that?
Always an open door.
There's always an open door. And Cliff's showing this horse that we're never going to ask you for something where there's not an answer. Yep. Sometimes you got to fight for that answer. You got to find it. You got to this and that. But we're always going to offer you a place to be.
That's right. So the harder it is for a horse to find the right answer and the more pressure it takes, the longer I want to let them settle on it. And what they've actually proven, actually Martin Black and Dr. Steve Peters, a brain scientist, surgeon, they've done studies on horse brains, and that horses actually grow dendrites, which are like roots of a tree. So when the actual incident happens, what we do after that matters more than the incident that happens. So you can have, whether it's good or bad, if it's bad and you just go on like nothing bad happened, they often forget that anything bad happened. They don't even really register that it was bad. It was just part of the noise. But if you build pressure and the horse gets the right answer and you stop everything dead there and give a great big release, that horse will go, that worked for me. But that's why I said, like, horses will manipulate people. Every time their energy goes up, everybody backs off, right?
Right.
So that horse, they just get more and more sensitive. They learn that if they spook, pressure's going to go away. Because what do people do when a horse spooks? They go, it's okay, and they drop the reins and they pet them and they stop and they look at it. The horse going, this is pretty good living. This is easy, right? So that's where spookiness, I think, really develops. It's more of a vice than a fear thing. So anyhow, he had a good spot there to kind of chew on that.
Well, I'll add to the spookiness deal there, and what you were saying earlier about horses learn to manipulate us. Horses, when they're born, they only know true and false. They don't know anything about gray areas, and they don't know anything about a lie. And they learn how to lie from us by us being inconsistent. And as humans, we're often so inconsistent that they very quickly figure out, even if we haven't done very much with them, they very quickly figure out how to manipulate us with those lies. 90% of what Cliff's doing here is showing this horse, I'm not gonna lie to you. What I say, I mean, and what I tell you is the truth. And then he's setting this colt up for me to do the same thing.
So I always want to support all the movement I get from the flag. I always want to go back and support it with just making that flag feel good. It's just like my leg. My horse shouldn't be afraid of every movement of my leg, but if I lift my seat and I engage and my leg starts to move, he darn sure better get. You know, and they need to understand your intent as much as they do the cue or the signal. Start to get some lateral movement here in the shoulders. See how much better that got now that we let him chew on that for a minute? And then he immediately licks and chews because he knows as he took those steps he got the right answer. Like they're that smart. They figure it out that quick if you're that clear with what you want. Trouble is most humans aren't clear on what they want, so it's very hard for the horse gets frustrated because the horse ends up not being clear on what's actually wanted. So again, I'll move that shoulder and we'll go to the right side and we'll saddle.
And there, right there, that colt said, yeah, this is what you want, but it's kind of hard for me. Do you mean it? And Cliff said, yeah, I mean it. Oh, okay, no problem.
You see just his body language. When we first came in this horse, he was just looking for a way out. Which to me, colt like that, if we just went to flogging him around loose in here, he might be one that tries to climb the panels or do something dumb. But this is a way more controlled. All my horses, we're not an anchor, I'm a clutch. I can let them move out and I can slow them down. And I can do it all without hurting them or taxing myself. And the big thing is, he's gonna learn, once he learns he can't pull that saddle horn off that saddle, he's gonna learn that the end of the rope is 100%. He's gonna believe it. They'll tie better after, they'll do most everything better after this.
No. Hush.
A different side. left side's always harder. I tend to do the right side first because it's easier to get my point across. I don't have to deal with a lot of man-made stuff, especially on these young colts that haven't had a lot. Like here, he wants to more run through it than yield.
No.
Every time he gets it wrong, I lift on him, and then I push.
There we go.
There. I always finish by lifting for the hind quarter, then we drop him. So he's always knowing that that hind quarter, moving to the hind quarter precedes a big release. So he wants to find that hind quarter after a while. And it works in reverse too, because once they learn that even movement forward gets a release. So forward motion is easier to achieve there. So why is the left side always tougher? Because we catch them on the left, we halter on the left, we do all the things on the left side, we do all the things to the left, and we dull them. They get more cocky there. See how he doesn't want to get his feet shut down on that left side. He's just a lot more just cocky. That's about as good as I'll need to get it right this second, but that's something I'll be aware of on this horse as we go forward. Just getting the hind quarter a little bit better. I mean the forequarter's a little bit better. Brett, you want to go from there?
Yeah, I think it's time, huh?
Yeah.
Here, the boss wants you to have this microphone on. So, when I say I think it's time, it's because watching from my viewpoint, I'm seeing that this colt is to the point now where even if he doesn't necessarily know what it is we want every single time, he's looking to Cliff and the help horse for answers. He's looking over there to try to figure out where he needs to be, what he's supposed to be doing. Cliff's doing a whole bunch of don't be here exercises with him, telling that colt, I don't want you here, I don't want you here, and that colt's going, here, 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 yep. Where'd this work? And so now that he's looking for those answers, that means I can come in here and do my part of it, because he's gonna be looking for guidance from over here. I'm just gonna spend a second here touching him and rubbing on him.
You notice Brett approaches with a lot of confidence. There's no tentative, let me see what you're gonna do. He walks up like he knows he's gonna be a broke, gentle saddle horse. And how we treat the horse, how we make him feel is a lot about how they're gonna act.
It is too easy to get creeping around and acting like this is a big deal. He doesn't know what's going on at all. So he's counting on me and Cliff to tell him what's going on. If we keep telling him, this is no big deal, he goes, okay, it's no big deal. Like I've said all morning, they're masters at reading our actions and our reactions. If I go to creeping around here and being worried, he doesn't know what the next step is anyway. He just knows that something scary is going on. Treat them like they're broken, they'll act that way.
I would say 95% of the time after I flag one like that, that's how they saddle up for the first saddle. As far as just tossing it on, doesn't matter. It's kind of neat how it works.
It is pretty cool. And I don't know about you, but after all these years of doing it, it still surprises me that it works.
Me too. I'm like, whoa, I did that.
I'll be darned. He just stood there like a broke saddle horse. You guys notice I've ridden colts long enough, I could have looked at him and judged and had that adjusted probably almost exactly where I wanted before I ever came in here. The reason I didn't do it is it gives me an excuse to go over there. We spend so much time over on this side, we don't do enough over on that side. So in these first few rides, I will hobble myself in any way, shape, or form to make me have to go over there and do things. This first cinching to me is pretty important. So right there, I put the first loop in, and with my hand, I just pulled the cinch up tight against him, and then I loosen it. And I got the second wrap, and I pulled it up tight and loosened it. Pull it up tight and loosen it. Here it comes, Cliff.
Let her rip, tater chip.
There we go. That's another thing that I've found that these first few cinchings make a big difference in how they're going to be the rest of their life. A lot of people want to just put a tiny bit in and move them around, a tiny bit in and move them around, tiny bit in and move them around. To me, that's always made a cinchy horse. I get it tight, loosen it, get it tight, loosen it, get it tight, loosen it, and then go ahead and tighten it up. Now, first steps as a saddled horse.
First thing I do is roll that hip. I let him take a step, feel it. A couple reasons I roll that hip. One is that he's already begun to associate it with neutral and safety, but also is that without him walking too far, it makes him articulate his body to really feel those cinches. I'll do it again. Let him walk off maybe a little further. Pick him up. Just remind them that I can get to those feet.
And what we didn't do there is just turn him loose and make him deal with this all by himself. That's a recipe for disaster. Of introducing this new thing, and he's got
can't
it
get
all
away
wrapped
from
around
it.
him, and just here, figure this out. That's not going to work ever.
I'm not in a hurry. I don't need to cause fireworks. He'll probably jump and grab himself at some point, and that's okay. I've found no correlation between ones that don't buck in the first few saddle lanes versus ones that do, except that the ones that don't buck probably will later.
Well, yeah, they're going to eventually.
Most of the time they will. They'll find a reason. It's usually when you're on them.
Recently I started a little horse for a gal, and went a lot like this. Was just a real gentle horse. She didn't have near as much forward movement as this colt wants to have, and did my regular deal. Went ahead and put the first ride on her, and I was all by myself. And I just got on her, and we just went around the pen wherever she needed to go. We went around, but I could feel there was something in there that wasn't working. She needed to move more, but didn't feel confident about doing it. And so I got her real good on a lunge line, and the next day I had my son, who's 11, get on her. And because he's smaller and lighter, and I could drive her a foot, and everything was working good. I was just about to tell him to get off. And we had 700 border collies running around the round pen, and somebody kicked one of those border collies, and it yiked. And she jumped and bucked Hoyt off. And what was good about that is that was what she needed to do, and she would have never felt like she could have done it with my weight on her. But she needed to jump and buck, and so that what Cliff was talking about them jumping and bucking, that doesn't make them bad horses. It just, they need to do it sometimes. I love how this colt's handling it. That's a really a lot of pressure he's dealing with right there, and he's figuring out what part of the pressure is him and what part's not. That bay horse is loping around there, is focused on moving him. Cliff's driving him with the flag, and that colt never got out of line in his mind. He just went where he was supposed to go. Did you guys notice right there where when Cliff engaged him, that horse raised his head a little bit and kind of engaged him back, and it was like, well, what do you want, boss? That was a cool deal.
Whenever
right
I
there.
stop now, before he really even hits the end of that rope, he's untracking his hinds. That kind of tells me he's about ready to ride. I don't want to run him out. I don't want to gas him out any more than we have to, because to me that's one of the worst things you could do to a colt, because you're just stealing rides at that point, right. You know. Believe me, there's some I do gas out because they're a lot of horse, and I'll take it a couple rides, but you can't do it forever. And a little horse like him, the best thing to do is just keep a little in the tank, get to getting and do what you do, and have another day.
You know, in that stealing rides, I've always said if you steal a ride, that's fine, but you got to pay it back and you owe them interest. And so I'd just soon not do it. I'm in the same boat as you are. I think he's ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so this first ride is probably going to be a matter of Cliff's going to just straight up pony us. I'm still going to move him around. So I just tighten his cinch up there. What I'm going to do is just, this is almost more ritualistic than anything
Passive
for my team.
death.
And getting my head into the game is just as important as anything else. If I was all by myself and didn't have a help horse, I would probably put this horse away today and worry about a ride tomorrow. I don't think we're hurting anything getting a ride today. In fact, I think we're doing good. We've got the support team.
And he's just mentally in a good place.
Yeah.
Like he's not very stressed. Once he figured out where to be, he's not very stressed.
And this is, like I said, even though Cliff's probably going to have a hold of him the whole time, this is a chance for me to get my hands on him and me feel what Cliff feels. He looks good to me, but now I want to make sure he feels good to me.
Yep.
That willingness.
You know, I don't mind if the first time or two around there he kind of hangs a little on that rope, but by the
looking for the answer.
third or fourth time, he should be looking for the end of the rope.
Yeah. He said, I don't need bay. I'm a big boy. So I'll just pause for a second here before I step on. Being that I don't very often have a true snub like that. That was right on my toe.
Right on your toe.
Being that I don't often have a true snub like this, I'm actually a hair awkward with this. I've done it a million times, but I'm a hair awkward. Cliff knows how I operate, and I've got to cheek one up and this and that.
And I do the same.
Even with a snub?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just part of my muscle
I'm just
memory.
gonna step up here. He's telling me everything's kosher. You like it?
So there, if he wiggled and got a little funny, we might have got off and on, you know, got halfway up or something if he wiggled around and just waited for him still, but
he took it like
he took it like a man. You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
So same thing as before. We've already built a program. Why depart from it now? So forward a few steps, roll those hindquarters out. That feels pretty good.
To me, the hardest part about taking a snub is doing nothing. Letting Cliff do the work that he just trained this colt to do.
See how there he got a little stuck? He kind of plowed forward, so I got my horse's hip to his shoulder to help block him in case he tried to leave.
You guys see how I keep kind of doing a little hula dance in my saddle?
He doesn't want him to forget he's up there.
Yeah.
Because he'll get distracted by what I'm doing, and then all of a sudden you'll move a little bit and he'll go, oh shit, there's someone there.
Yep. And so I keep touching him with my legs, and I keep kind of hulaing around a little bit just so he doesn't forget what's going on. Got a hold of that mane, and that's if he does do something, which he's not, that's not going to keep me on. Cliff's what's going to keep me on. I've got a hold of that mane because it's like I've got like I'm plugged into him. I can feel where he's at through that. We could do a bunch more, we really could, but I don't dare. That was picture perfect. That was as good as it could be. Yep. Thank you so much to the Patreon crew. You guys are the reason we're able to do this and do the extra things and really do all the YouTube videos too. We wouldn't be able to make it work without you guys. So thank you so much.